Now let's go a little bit further into this topic. We talked about the architects of modern propaganda, Lee and Bernet, and the Travis Institute. Their playbooks are in the public domain, and in the 21st century, the game has changed with social media. They're not the only ones doing this to you. It's not just the governments or the corporations. There's no class or Illuminati who's controlling all this. We are doing this to each other and being mobilized in part by higher layers of manipulations, sometimes as useful idiots, but mostly by our opportunists who are just getting lucky. These techniques do not produce precise outcomes, just general probabilities. You can be taught buzzwords, can talking points through propaganda, and you can, through osmosis, see the effectiveness of emotional manipulation when it's used by a politician on another person and adapt it for yourself without having to study it. The same way a kid imitates from their parents. So you can be a carrier of these memes of thought and feeling that have probable outcomes, and in that way produce effects. In much the same way that an advertising campaign can get a jingle in your head, but it can't guarantee a precise number of increased sales. There is a limited effect that these fully can have on you. But this isn't about a shadowy group in a smoky room. It's hundreds of groups, corporations, political parties, influencers, even foreign governments, all using these PSYOP techniques on us 24/7. Now again, the government isn't legally allowed to run these operations on its own citizens, and there are almost no laws stopping private companies from using the exact same methods. However, foreign companies, as we know with the problems that we've had with Russia and China, will use this stuff on us. Or if you haven't seen the Netflix documentary, The Social Dilemma, you can see that nothing's stopping corporations from researching and using them and trying them out on us in order to get cultural homogeny in their own interests, or from using old studies from the USSR or other fallen governments on how to spread propaganda. No one is policing the manuals of fallen governments on PSYOPs on the dark web. So this isn't a conspiracy theory, it's a business model of the modern world. It's not just for corporations, but for every TikToker and YouTuber trying to get engagement. The manipulation is no longer about getting you to buy soap or cigarettes. Now they're selling you ideologies. They're engineering your identity. So now we're going to look more specifically at the developments in psychology to make better sense of why these techniques and how they're working today. We're going to return to the French psychoanalyst Jacques Lacan, who talked about something called the big other. Think of the big other as the unwritten rules of society, the symbolic network of laws and language that tell you who you are and, most importantly, what you should desire. For decades, the big other was either religion, the social norms of the group, or what has then become traditional advertising. But today, another form of the big other has emerged, and that is woke capitalism. Woke capitalism doesn't sell you a product, it sells you redemption with the product. Every brand has a rainbow on it. It's not just a product, but a political worldview that gives you virtue for participating in it. It is faith with works. You believe and you act through your consumerism. They've appropriated the advertising space to push their political utopia. This new big other has a terrifyingly effective message. Your natural private desires are wrong. Lacan argued that our desires are never truly our own. It's always the desire of the big other. We learn what we want from the world around us, but now the big other is telling you that your own libido has been corrupted by political sicknesses, by toxic masculinity, by fascism, and by Nazism. This is how I'm going to explain the Sydney Sweeney hysteria. Suddenly, you don't just lack a product. It's your very desire which is a product of moral failing, and it needs to be resolved through proper consumerism. Your desire for a car, a beer, a shaver, a hamburger is now framed as a symptom of heterosexual toxicity, and this needs to be fixed. This brings us to Sydney Sweeney. In this new symbolic order, a man being attracted to a conventionally beautiful blonde woman is no longer a simple preference. It's presented as evidence that you have been secretly programmed by Nazis. Your desire for her is interpreted as desire for a pure white race, a subconscious signal that you're ready to serve the SS. I don't even know my own libido. I am alienated from my own libido. My libido is a problem to me. I am the social recipient of it through social engineering, and I need to submit it with docility to be remolded by woke society. by the enlightened, and by the elect, by the anointed. So, where I think I just like Sydney Sweeney as a blonde girl who reminds me of everything I liked about Sweet Child of Mine being sung by Axl Rose, it's not that. It's because I've become broken and warped. I've become toxic. It's because the Nazis have already disordered and misformed me. They have already molded me into a monster. I'm part of this insidious plan of global Nazism. These are the proper hermeneutics that the new progressive man must understand his world. Even the SS of Sydney's name is part of the programming. I think I want to have heterosexual interactions with her and touch her genes, but in fact I've been programmed to want the SS to propagate her Aryan genes. It's all coded and secret. I want to reproduce the SS. My primal urge to imagine my hands on Sydney Sweeney's genes is in fact me surrendering to the complacency to white nationalism. I'm giving myself over to Nazi programming. My own desires are the product of insidious formations.
American Eagle ads are weird, like fascist weird, like Nazi propaganda weird.
Now, if that's not a schizo argument, I don't know what is. Your libido is now a suspect. You are alienated from your own desires and told you must hand them over to re-education, to a new imaginary desire, a new big other, a new utopia created as the hyper-real of woke capitalism, remolded by consumption of the correct products into a universal, genderless, and politically correct form of love. Due to this, the only defense anyone in this social environment can have is to accept that everything can't be trusted and that everything is propaganda and evil, and that there is some fascist hidden agenda behind the scenes manipulating us, and that all our primordial states and desires, our gender and our sexuality and identities have all been programmed. I used Sydney Sweeney with a little bit of tongue in cheek, but it's also to show how bizarre and paranoid all this gets. At the same time, I don't fault the Sydney Sweeney critics. I don't fault these people who want to talk to me about this and convince me of their arguments. They're just as schizo as anyone else living in a consumeristic society like ours. So although I find them ridiculous in a particular way, I see them as manifesting a symptom that has overtaken all of us to some degree. So, is it any wonder everyone seems paranoid? In a world where you know reality is being manufactured, believing in a hidden agenda isn't crazy. It's a logical adaptation.
So, Junior and Carolyn were married on September 21st. Now, 921 is uranium-1, because uranium's 92 on the periodic table. Uranium-1, which 92 and 1 is 93. The Pope wears red shoes 93. We all know the material of those shoes. Those shoes are made from human skin, baby skin shoes. And Trump told him to wear those red shoes when he came and handed over his power to Trump.
Acting schizo becomes a necessary defense mechanism to survive in an environment that's constantly trying to manipulate you. The endless conspiracy theories, QAnon, lizard people, whatever comes next, are just a symptom of this. We sense that we are being indoctrinated. We desperately try to name the unseen force to find the one cabal who's pulling all the strings. But the terrifying truth might be that there is no one in control. We're caught in a chaotic crossfire of hundreds of competing groups, and we make up this crossfire. All are using psychological weapons to fight for a piece of the public consciousness. So I'm not trying to score any points for any particular political side on this, since I don't think this is exclusive to one political camp. I'm also making fun of believing that Sydney Sweeney is a Nazi, but we can also very easily just look at QAnon and the lizard people. Both sides have been rife with conspiracy theories, slippery slopes, allegations of ideological pipelines, and the decoding of hidden agendas operating in plain sight. This is not a phenomenon exclusively to one side or another, although each side seeks to explain the phenomena, the paranoid schizophrenia that they're dealing with theories which are particularly saturated by the influences of their worldviews and ideologies. For instance, the liberals see their role in history as defending humanity from the reassertance of Nazism and moving towards an unforeseen form of utopian civilization and equality, while the conservatives see their role as defending humanity against the resurgence of pagan primitivism and as trying to prevent the fall of an already existing and successful civilization. They both need each other to share, test, and challenge their ideas. It's good that they can at least be in dialogue, that they can at least believe that there's something going on that's driving us all crazy. So, instead of mocking the Sydney Sweeney theories, I want to endeavor to see them as yet another data point on the social psychological phenomena that's affecting us all. Both sides are grasping at straws as we try to evolve in this terrible environment which we have built for ourselves. This is like the Truman Show situation. The cracks are becoming obvious. Something is definitely constantly trying to manipulate, engineer, and systematically study us to better use our lives for design purposes, but no one can actually explain what this unseen force is. It's like religious men speculating about what causes lightning and wind. For one group, it's a horse god. For another, it's a lizard god. For another, it's a great spirit. For others, still, many gods working in concert. It just shows how mythical this thinking has become, and that it's not normal logic that we're engaged in, that we're trying to use special forms of logic in attempts to make sense of our world. I think you can see this with Charlie Kirk as well. You had Charlie Kirk shot by someone who wrote anti-fascist things on his bullets, and yet the left insists that he was a Nazi right-winger who shot Charlie Kirk. And he shot Charlie Kirk because Charlie Kirk was a Nazi right-winger. So we have a Nazi shooting another Nazi. Now, even if this is true, it still makes no sense why he would do that. Why would one Nazi shoot another? Now, perhaps things will come out and make sense of it. I don't know. The logic to me is just phenomenally absurd. So again, I think that this is just more data points that are showing the breakdown of our ability to make sense of the world that we're in. It's a world where we can recognize the contours, but neither side can actually pin down the structures that are working and who's behind them. So using the Truman Show analogy again, we cannot see behind the reflective glass who is in the control room. We can only see the effects of the control room. We can't see the cause. So all of these advertising and manipulation techniques developed by Bernays has also combined with the fruits of Cold War and PSYOPs techniques. And there's no single hand operating the control room. We are living through a 24/7 PSYOPs, a daily assault of voices designed to make us feel inadequate, ostracized, and in need of redemption, either by buying the right products or holding the right opinions. So what's the solution? Well, you can't really log off the world and go off the grid. I mean, you can, but that's a very difficult solution. So the next best thing is I think we can learn the rules of the game. I would advocate start by learning and identifying the techniques. I will be linking below resources to logical fallacies and a breakdown of PSYOP methods by a military expert named Chase Hughes. You can also use techniques or tools like AI to scan articles and arguments for these manipulative tactics. Things like appeals to emotions, false dilemmas, and ad hominem techniques. You can arm yourself with knowledge and use technology to fight this. I also had made my own app where I had expedited this process. I'll put a link to that as well. It's free and everything. And as all it does is it looks for logical fallacies in anything on YouTube and news. And so we have to get a little bit more meta about the information that we're digesting and not just stick to a blind trust in people who share a worldview similar to our own. We have to have critical thinking. We have to have people who are giving us information and facts and knowledge and helping us understand that we are being manipulated and accept that rather than only assume that the other side is being manipulated. So that's all for now. If you got something out of this, hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.